Sup flappers, welcome back to another video and thank you for joining me today in discovering the best EroticWalruss Itto team. Now in this video, I will be showcasing a variety of Itto teams from geocentric ones to non-geocentric ones, from whale teams to free-to-play teams. Now do keep in mind, a lot of these teams have variations. Just because your specific variation is not shown right here in this video on screen, it's not going to mean that it's not viable, and as long as you are having fun with it, as long as you are having results, then who is to say that it's not a good team, right? But here, I just want to show you some of the best DPS outputting and Abyss ready teams that I've tested over the past 3 days playing EroticWalruss Itto absolutely nonstop, and I've found some really wacky and weird teams that I probably won't share with you guys in this video, but maybe they'll come out as honorable mentions. I do hope that you guys can benefit from this video, and like, subscribe if you do so. With that said, let's get into the video. So immediately starting at team 1, you guys can see at the top left, it's a triple Geo Flex. Now what that essentially means is it's EroticWalruss Itto plus 2 other Geo character, and then you can fill out the last spot with whoever essentially you want to facilitate the wants and need of this team. Now currently I have a mono Geo team, meaning it's all Geo characters. Just means that I put the 4th slot as a Geo character. This is probably the only scenario where you will even run a quadruple, essentially a mono Geo team, right? It's actually just a variation of a triple Geo Flex team. So for example, if I wanted to get rid of, let's say, Albedo in this scenario and throw in Bennett for some extra healing, if I want to throw in Raiden Shogun for more particles for whatever reason, that's okay as well. If I want to throw in, let's say, someone like Fischl, that's okay. Someone like Xingqiu, that's okay. The sky's the limit here, people. Whoever you have here essentially could slot into this position. Although do be careful, let's say if you want to slot in someone like Zhao in this scenario, it wouldn't work out too well, as he doesn't really benefit from any reactions. You won't be able to get crystallized at all. Zhao is also a very field hungry character, so in this case Zhao probably won't work too well, but you guys get the idea. It's to fill out the last position with something that you feel like you lack. For example, right, let's say you didn't get Goro, you got Albedo, and at the end of the day you're gonna say like, well, I'm missing a healer, a dedicated healer. Then you can slap in your Kokomi, your Chi-Chi, your Diona, right? That's essentially what the triple Geo Flex team is, and personally I like the mono Geo team. I have all my Geo bros here just chilling, so I'm gonna run mono Geo for myself, but it doesn't mean that you have to. And remember, if you don't have characters like Zhongli, Albedo, you do have the Geo MC, you do have characters like Noel as well to facilitate this team, although it is a weaker variation of the triple Geo Flex, but in essence it still does work and it still pumps out decent results. I'm not gonna hard push it. Ideally you want either Zhongli, Goro, or Albedo, Zhongli, or Albedo, Goro. All right. With that said, let's move on to the second team. With the second team, I have constructed a non-Geo gang, and what essentially this accomplishes is to demonstrate that Itto does not have to be played in a double Geo, triple Geo team. Now in this team, yes, Itto does lack some power when it comes to his Geo resonance not being active, but what we facilitate that with is just complete and utter ult spamming frenzy. Now this Itto is sitting at C0, meaning he has 80 energy costs, and this team is essentially able to get his burst up on cooldown, and of course we got Bennett here to buff Itto's attack. Now I think there's a lot of misconception when it comes to Bennett and Itto's interactions here, because people think, well, now there's Goro, Bennett has become obsolete when it comes to a Itto team. Well, that's just not true. Itto still deals a decent amount of just raw attack, and Bennett buffing that attack stat is still going to be very beneficial for Itto as a main DPS unit. Now of course Raiden Shogun is going to be here to facilitate the downtime for Itto's burst being down, as well as Fischl funneling a little bit of damage on field just for both Raiden Shogun and EroticWalruss Itto. If your Fischl is C6, she's gonna be able to have Oz on field 24/7. Now, of course, for people who are Beidou enthusiasts, this is also your time to shine. Instead of having Fischl, you could also run Beidou in this scenario. However, the problem with running Beidou in this particular team is you'll quickly realize there's just not enough field time to go around for everybody. Beidou essentially is going to be there for that 1E proc, but you really don't have much time to have her on field for, let's say, more than 4 or 5 seconds at a time. Same with Fischl, right? So Beidou, using her burst skill, can give this team additional shielding as well as AoE damage, and working with EroticWalruss Itto, it just stacks really nicely. Overall, this double Electro team is probably my go-to for when it comes to non-Geo specific EroticWalruss Itto teams. All right, hope you guys have fun with this one because I certainly did. Moving on to the third team. This one is going to be very simple, nice and sweet, double Geo Crit build. As you guys know, EroticWalruss Itto's Ascension stat is crit rate and not geo damage bonus. So in this team, I have Zhongli here. You don't have to have Zhongli here. As you guys can see, Zhongli Diona does have a bit of conflict when it comes to shielding. Now, Diona essentially is just here to fulfill that cryo resonance, and I really only bring her out on field whenever I really need healing. And as you can see with Zhongli here, healing really isn't a top priority for this team. And the reason Ganyu is here as well is because not only does she facilitate great as an AoE cryo applicator to get that consistent damage going, but she also covers for one of Itto's biggest weaknesses, especially in Abyss, and that is ranged and spread out fights. Whereas all these enemies are standing in a big circle around the entire map, and Itto has to run and hit every single one of them. Ganyu could be swapped in those particular scenarios to deal with those enemies standing from one spot. This is a very, very strong coverage team and boosts EroticWalruss Itto's crit rate stat quite substantially, to the point where if you have great substats in your artifact running this team, you could even run a crit damage headpiece and still get a decent crit rate. I'm talking like 50 plus crit rate to maybe 160, 170 crit damage fairly easily, even with a free-to-play weapon. Now, this is just such a phenomenal team, and it's very comfortable, very easy to use for most players. And Zhongli Ganyu is essentially the toughest requirements for this team comp. And if you don't have Ganyu, unfortunately, this team does start to fall apart because no other cryo unit currently could facilitate this position. Even with Rosaria, then you won't be able to cover or the wide spread out enemies during those annoying fights. So essentially, you are missing out on that regards. So I really only recommend you run this particular team if you do have Ganyu. Now, Zhongli in this particular scenario can indeed be swapped out for someone like Albedo, for someone like Agoro if you do want that buffing. Do know that in this particular scenario, if you do decide to run Goro, he doesn't even need to be C4 because you do have a dedicated healer in Diona, and you're just going to be missing out on that Zhongli shield shred. But if you have a very stacked Goro, let's say you leveled him up, he got great artifacts, and he's going to be able to buff the team, run Goro. But unfortunately, if you do run Goro, yes, there are gives and takes when it comes to swapping these characters, is that he won't be able to activate the third level of his elemental skill. So if you come here, as you guys can see over here, General's War Banner, meaning if you only have 2 Geo, you can only get up to this buff, and you won't be able to actually get the 3 Geo characters crunch Geo damage bonus buff. All right, do keep that in mind. So be very, very careful how you decide to proceed with this particular team. Moving on to the fourth team. This is going to be a funnel budget team. Now, I've had a lot of fun playing this team. This is for like the people who just started playing this game and somehow landed themselves at Itto and Agoro. So with this particular team, unfortunately, it's going to require you to bring them to relatively higher levels with deep investment. So even for free-to-plays and early birds who are just getting into the game, know that you won't be able to see the full potential of this team, at least for a couple of weeks to maybe a month or so, because you need to level them up. And Goro, my Goro, luckily is at C4, so him and Xingqiu are able to facilitate each other in healing the squad, and my Fischl is able to heal herself through Constellation as well. So these 3 characters essentially are very self-sufficient. As you will see in the demonstration clip, I'm heavily severely underlevel, undergeared, fighting Abyss 12-1, and through corrosion, these three are able to just out-rotate and heal up just consistently. Now, of course, you guys can tell that I'm lacking a lot in the damage sector, but my goal is to show that yes, this team, as long as you put in more investment into them, the damage will catch up, as well as sustainability is going to be no problem, especially with Xingqiu's elemental skill, Goro C4 if you have it, and Fischl C4. Now, when it comes to damage, understand that Xingqiu's ult only works on Itto's normal attacks. When Itto is charge attacking, Xingqiu's burst does not proc. Now, you might be wondering then, Walrus, why the hell are you bringing Xingqiu when it doesn't work on Itto's charge attacks? Now, here's the thing, right? Itto functions very much like Zhao, and Itto wants to be in his burst state, charge attacking as often as possible, but you can't deny the fact that there is going to be downtime for this character, and during that downtime, his normal attack is average at best, and Xingqiu, with the stacking with Fischl, funneling all that back into Itto, you can still consistently, with normal attacks, with Oz, with Xingqiu's burst skill, you can still get 15-20k damage outputs per hit per second. That is quite substantial to say the least. That's like on the low end of some free-to-play Hu Tao builds, charge attacking for like, 15-20k per charge attack. So that is quite respectable, and do realize that that is during Itto's downtime, and when Itto is up and going, you really don't need too much additional damage to facilitate him because his scaling is just off the charts. Now, once again, look at Goro. As I told you guys, this is not going to fully utilize Goro's elemental skill. You're not going to be getting that geo damage bonus, unfortunately, yes, but that is the life of a free-to-play. If you do pull on Itto's banner, likely you're going to end up with at least a copy of Goro, and then you will have the option to run this team. But this, do understand, people, this is like the last ditch effort budget scenario team. Most of the time you would want to run one of these other teams, and right here ideally you would have a Zhongli. If you don't have Zhongli, this team does lose a bit of its power. Now, the most popular and most in demand team is still going to be this particular team with the triple Geo Flex. Now, this is really for people who have been prepped for Itto, and it's going to be how 80-90% of the time people build into Itto teams. All right, with that said, please comment down below what type of team you're running for Itto, as well as what do you think of the teams I've mentioned here. These are the teams with all my characters and all my resources poured in, I found has found great success. All right, with that said, urge you all to stay awesome and have a great day. If you really managed to watch all the way to the end of the video, here is the keyword for the day: purple sticker. Yes, it's random, it's weird, doesn't make any sense, and that's just the way we like it. All right, until next time, everybody, hope you all stay safe, and peace.